Welcome to the Amazon Abyss from Mr. Thrill Seeker. The warehouse loomed large, a concrete giant against the bruised twilight sky. Its sheer size was oppressive, its vastness swallowing the meager light that dared to touch its walls. It was a place of shadows and whispers, where the air hung heavy with the scent of dust and forgotten things. Locals called it the Abyss, and even the bravest souls avoided its gaze after dark. It was a place where logic died and fear thrived. This was no ordinary warehouse. This was a repository of secrets, best left undisturbed. But the Abyss, it seemed, had other plans. It was about to reveal a darkness so profound that it would forever stain the souls unfortunate enough to witness it.
Emma clocked in, her ID badge feeling unnaturally cold against her palm. The fluorescent lights hummed, casting a sterile glare over the endless rows of towering shelves. The air was thick with the smell of cardboard and a faint metallic tang that she couldn't quite place. It prickled at her senses, sending a shiver down her spine. She pushed the feeling aside, chalking it up to the late hour and her racing heart. She was alone, or so she thought, in this cavernous space. Her footsteps echoed off the concrete floor as she made her way to her assigned aisle. She checked her scanner, the digital screen reflecting in her wide, worried eyes. A sudden clatter from the shadows made her jump. She spun around, her heart hammering in her chest. Silence. She was alone, or was she?
Detective Alex Reynolds, a man hardened by years, on the force, stared at the missing person report. Emma Walker, 22, last seen entering the infamous Amazon warehouse on the outskirts of town. The warehouse had a reputation, a black mark on the city's landscape. Whispers of strange occurrences and unexplained disappearances clung to it like cobwebs. Reynolds, a man of logic and reason, brushed off the rumors. But something about this case, about the fear he saw in Emma's mother's eyes, struck a chord deep within him. He tapped the file, the missing girl's smiling face staring back at him. He knew that look, the look of a soul unknowingly walking into darkness. He'd seen it too many times before. He picked up his jacket, a steely glint in his eyes. He was going to find out what the Abyss was hiding.
The security office was small, cramped, and filled with the constant hum of surveillance monitors. The air was thick with the scent of stale coffee and the faint buzz of electronics, creating an atmosphere that was both stifling and tense. Reynolds sat back, his gaze fixed on the grainy footage. His eyes were tired, but his mind was sharp, analyzing every flicker and shadow on the screen. He rewound the tape, his eyes narrowing at the screen. Each frame was scrutinized, every second replayed in his mind as he searched for clues. There, a flicker of movement at the edge of the camera's range. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. He slowed the playback, his breath catching in his throat. The room seemed to grow colder as he focused on the screen. A figure, translucent and indistinct, drifted across the aisle. It moved with an eerie grace, almost as if it were floating. It wasn't a person, not in the conventional sense. Its form was too ethereal, too otherworldly to be human. It was something else, something ethereal and deeply unsettling. The kind of thing that sent shivers down your spine and made you question reality. He leaned closer, his eyes straining to make sense of the image. His heart pounded in his chest as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. The figure seemed to be drawn to Emma, its movements mirroring hers. It was as if it was connected to her, bound by some unseen force. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it vanished. The screen went blank, leaving only the static hum of the monitors. The hair on the back of Reynolds' neck stood on end. A chill ran down his spine, and he felt a sense of dread wash over him. He had seen enough to know that this case had taken a sharp turn into the unknown. The evidence was undeniable, and the implications were terrifying. He was no longer dealing with a simple disappearance. He was dealing with something far more sinister. The kind of thing that haunted your dreams and made you question everything you thought you knew about the world.
Section 5. Whispers from the past. The old librarian, her face etched with time and knowledge, pushed a dusty tome across the table. Her hands trembled slightly, the weight of the book and its secrets almost too much to bear. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and forgotten memories, each page a testament to the passage of time. "This is all I could find, Detective," she said, her voice a raspy whisper. "Local legends, mostly. Rumors of dark rituals and sacrifices. Nothing concrete, I'm afraid." Her eyes darted around the room, as if the very walls had ears. The detective could sense her unease, the fear that these whispers were more than just old wives' tales.
Reynolds opened the book, his eyes scanning the faded text and crude illustrations. The pages whispered of a time when the land was ruled by ancient forces, of a gateway between worlds hidden beneath the very ground on which the warehouse now stood. Each word seemed to pulse with a life of its own, drawing him deeper into the dark history that had been buried for centuries.
He traced the outline of a symbol depicted in the book, a chillingly familiar symbol he had seen before. It was the same symbol that had haunted his dreams, the same one that had appeared in the security footage, lurking in the shadows behind Emma. The realization hit him like a cold wave, sending shivers down his spine. In the security footage, lurking in the shadows behind Emma. The figure was barely discernible, a dark silhouette against the grainy backdrop. But the symbol was unmistakable, glowing faintly, as if imbued with some otherworldly power. It was a connection he couldn't ignore, a thread that tied the past to the present in a web of mystery and danger. He looked up, a cold dread settling in his gut. The legends? The whispers? Were they more than just stories? He had stumbled upon something ancient and evil, something that had claimed Emma and countless others before her. The warehouse, once a place of mundane storage, had become a nexus of dark energy, a place where the past bled into the present. Reynolds knew he was on the brink of uncovering a truth that could shatter everything he believed in, a truth that had been hidden in the shadows for far too long. Section 6. Ritualistic Discoveries. The air grew colder, the silence heavier, as Reynolds descended deeper into the bowels of the warehouse. Each step echoed ominously, reverberating through the empty, cavernous space. The walls seemed to close in on him, the darkness becoming almost tangible, wrapping around him like a shroud. He had found it. A hidden passage concealed behind a wall of steel shelving. The discovery was both thrilling and terrifying, a testament to the secrets this place held. The shelving creaked as he pushed it aside, revealing a narrow, foreboding entrance. The passage, reeking of decay and despair, led to a vast chamber. The air was thick and oppressive, filled with the scent of rot and something else, something ancient and malevolent. The walls were lined with strange, indecipherable markings, their meanings lost to time. The air was thick with the scent of incense and something else, something metallic and cloying. It was as if the very atmosphere was charged with an unseen energy, a palpable tension that made the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. The floor was littered with strange symbols, drawn in what looked like dried blood. These symbols seemed to pulse with a life of their own, as if they were part of some ancient, forgotten ritual. The sight was both mesmerizing and horrifying, a glimpse into a world beyond his understanding. In the center of the chamber stood an altar, its surface stained a sickening crimson. The altar was adorned with grotesque carvings, each one telling a story of sacrifice and bloodshed. It was a focal point of dark power, a place where unspeakable acts had been committed.
Reynolds' hand instinctively went to his gun, his senses on high alert. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound amplified in the oppressive silence. He knew he was not alone, that something was watching him, waiting. This was no ordinary warehouse. This was a place of power, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. The very air seemed to hum with energy, a low, almost imperceptible vibration that resonated deep within his bones. He could feel it now, a presence dark and hungry, watching him from the shadows. It was a malevolent force, ancient and powerful, its gaze piercing through the darkness, seeking him out. He was standing on sacred or perhaps profane ground. This place was a nexus of dark energy, a focal point for rituals and sacrifices. The weight of countless dark deeds hung heavy in the air, a testament to the horrors that had been committed here.
Section 7. The Cult Unveiled. A low chanting echoed through the chamber, sending shivers down Reynolds' spine. He moved cautiously towards the sound, his heart pounding in his chest. He peered around a corner and gasped at the sight before him. A group of figures, their faces hidden by dark hoods, stood in a circle around a blazing fire. In the center of the circle, bound and gagged, was Emma. Her eyes were wide with terror, her body trembling.
The chanting grew louder, more intense. One figure, taller than the rest and adorned with elaborate robes, stepped forward. He held a ceremonial dagger in his hand, its blade glinting in the firelight. He raised his arms and the chanting reached a fever pitch. Reynolds knew he had to act fast. Emma's life hung in the balance.
Section 8, Captive in the Dark.
Emma struggled against her bonds, her heart hammering against her ribs.
The chanting washed over me, a wave of sound that threatened to drown me in terror.
The air reeked of incense and fear, a suffocating combination that made her head spin.
I saw the glint of the dagger, felt the heat of the flames on my skin.
This couldn't be real, couldn't be happening.
This was the stuff of nightmares, not my life.
Then, through the haze of fear, she saw him. A figure emerged from the shadows, his face grim, his eyes filled with a fierce determination.
Hope, fragile and unexpected, flickered within me. Maybe, just maybe, I wasn't going to die tonight.
Police, put the girl down!
Reynolds burst into the open, his gun drawn. The chanting ceased abruptly. The hooded figures turned towards him, their faces hidden, their eyes burning with a cold, malevolent light. The figure with the dagger hesitated, his gaze flickering between Reynolds and Emma. It was a moment frozen in time, a clash between the mundane and the supernatural. Reynolds knew he was outmatched, outgunned, and completely out of his depth. But he couldn't back down, not now, not when Emma's life was on the line. He had stared into the abyss, and the abyss had blinked, but he would not be cowed. He would fight for Emma, for himself, for the very soul of the city that lay sleeping above. Chaos erupted. The hooded figures rushed Reynolds, their movements surprisingly fast and agile. He fired his gun, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. One of the figures crumpled to the ground, but the others kept coming, their eyes burning with an unholy light. Reynolds fought back, with the ferocity of a cornered animal, his fists connecting with jaws and ribs. He knew he couldn't win, not against this many, but he had to buy Emma time. He saw his opportunity. The figure with the dagger, distracted by the fight, had left Emma unguarded. He kicked out, sending a hooded figure sprawling, and lunged towards the altar. He reached for Emma's bonds, his fingers fumbling with the knots. The leader of the cult, his face now revealed beneath his hood, lunged at Reynolds, a look of pure hatred twisting his features. He swung a heavy, ornate staff, catching Reynolds on the side of the head. The world exploded in a burst of pain and light. Reynolds staggered, his vision blurring. He tasted blood, felt the warmth of it trickling down his face. He was going down, but he had bought Emma enough time. She had managed to free herself from her bonds and now stood behind the cult leader, her eyes blazing with a newfound fury.
No more!
She grabbed a burning torch from the fire, and plunged it towards the cult leader's back. The warehouse stood silent, its secrets once again hidden beneath a cloak of dust and shadows. The screams, the chanting, the gunshots had all faded into the night, leaving behind an unsettling stillness. Reynolds and Emma emerged from the depths, their faces pale, their bodies bruised but unbroken. They had walked into the abyss and returned, forever marked by their ordeal. The warehouse remained, a looming reminder of the darkness that lay just beneath the surface of their world. The abyss, it seemed, had been subdued, but not defeated. It was a cautionary tale, a testament to the fact that some secrets are best left buried, some doors best left unopened. For the abyss gazes back, and sometimes it remembers. Subscribe for more from Mr. Thrill Seeker, and remember to share if you dare. Sit and chill with our thrills. Until next time.